Hi everyone, this is my family tree assignment, and as it's quite spread out, I will be scrolling some along the way to discuss each part. The majority of the information I gathered for this assignment comes from my mom and dad, as well as my only living grandparent, my grandmother on my mom's side. While it only goes back to the past 5 generations and has a few missing pieces that I was unable to uncover, I can say that both sides of my family have lived in America for a long time. However, my dad's side, the Deininger side, has predominantly German and some English roots, and my mother's side of the family has English-Scottish roots as well as some Cherokee. I grew up in Georgia, so some might say I'm a Southern girl, but I've never really felt that was the case because even though my mom's side is from the true South, my dad and his family come from the North. I always felt that my Southernness was diluted with a little Yankee. My dad would definitely agree. So moving on to the meat of my family history, I'm going to start with my dad's side and then make my way down to my mom's side. My dad, Mark Allen Deininger, grew up as one of 4 brothers. He was born in New Jersey, but moved around quite a bit. For a time, he lived in Pennsylvania, Denver, Colorado, and finally his family settled in Atlanta, Georgia. The moving around revolved around my dad's dad, who I call my pop-pop, and his job. My dad was the 3rd Deininger to attend law school, preceded by his grandfather, Leonard Leroy Deininger III, and his uncle, who's not on this chart. My dad is currently an attorney. My pop-pop, Donald Leroy Deininger, was born in Pennsylvania alongside 2 siblings, and my grandma, Jan Townend Deininger, was born in New Jersey with 4 siblings, and both met in college in Pennsylvania. Though my grandma went to college, she lived her life as a homemaker, while my pop-pop was a Navy veteran who later worked predominantly as a business executive and earned a decent living for his family of 6. My great-grandfather, on my dad's paternal side, Leonard Leroy Deininger III, was a federal judge in Pennsylvania, while his wife Mabel was a homemaker whose education ended with high school. And just a side note, throughout this family tree, I've used asterisks to indicate those who did not go on to receive college education. So neither of Judge Deininger's parents went to college. His father, from Pennsylvania, was a farmer and butcher, and little is known about his mother, except that her maiden name was Wally. We're unsure of Mabel's parents' names, but we do believe that her father was a postmaster who did attend college, and mother was a homemaker who may have finished high school. Coming back down to my grandma, Jan Townend Deininger, and her side of the family. Her father, Robert Townend, was a chemist from Massachusetts who attended college and, in fact, worked on the Manhattan Project during World War II. Her mother, Lucy Maud Morse Townend, was from New Jersey and did not attend college, and she lived as a homemaker. Her father, Arthur Gibson Morse, was a political speechwriter from Ohio, and you might recognize the name Morse if you've ever heard of Morse code. The inventor of Morse code, Samuel F.B. Morse, is actually a distant relative of ours. I believe he would be considered my 6th cousin. So that concludes the 5 generations from my father's side of the family. It's really neat to see that several relatives on this side were college educated, many women were homemakers, and there are a range of interesting occupations coming from this side: attorney, judge, chemist, speechwriter, postmaster, and farmer butcher. So now let's take a look at my mom's side of the family. My mom, Cynthia Jean Talent Deininger, was born and raised in Georgia. She attended Rollins College in Florida. She worked in real estate briefly, but spent the majority of her career life as a teacher. Her father, Frederick Cobb Talent, my granddaddy Fred, and her mother, Marjorie, both attended college at Baylor University in Texas. My granddaddy is from Georgia, while my grandmother's family was from Texas. And after college, they moved back to Georgia to marry and begin a family. Granddaddy Fred had 2 siblings, and Marjorie had none. They both had careers as teachers, though Granddaddy Fred went on to become a land developer. My granddaddy's parents, Alfred Wyatt Talent and Savannah Grace Loomis Talent, both grew up and lived in Georgia, and neither went to college. Alfred was a school teacher as well as a postal worker and security guard, and Savannah a homemaker. Alfred's parents were a farmer and a homemaker, also from Georgia. And then Savannah's parents, we think, are also from Georgia, but we're not sure of their occupations. None of Savannah's or Alfred's parents attended college. My grandmother, Marjorie, is my only living grandparent today. Her parents, the McKelveys, as well as her grandparents, were all from Texas. My grandmother's dad was a teacher, and both of her parents worked as bookkeepers as well. I've put an asterisk in parentheses for them because they both attended higher education programs, but not degree programs, according to my mom. My grandmother's paternal grandfather was a farmer, and a grandmother a homemaker, and neither attended college. Likewise, my grandmother's maternal grandfather was also a farmer, while her grandmother was a homemaker. So to sum up, after investigating this small part of my family's history, I found out some pretty cool details. For example, it was interesting to see so many teachers on my mother's side of the family, with 0 on my dad's side. It's also neat to see how a northern family and southern family merged to create mine and my brother's generation. It's also very humbling to see the privilege that I come from, having so many relatives before me receive a college education, and my dad's grandfather, my dad, and myself being the only ones on either side to carry postgraduate degrees. So thanks for listening and learning a little bit about my family history with me.